Hello guys, hope you're really well. We're going to be talking today about Arsenal's interest in David Raya. Got a bit of an update on the sort of situation there. But we're also going to be debating whether he is the right player, the right position for Arsenal to be prioritising at this point in the window, especially in the light of the injury to Gabriel Jesus. Before we get into that, just want to say thank you so much for watching, for your loyalty to the channel, and thanks for all the questions you sent in, by the way, for the Q&A, which I'm going to record next week. Really looking forward to getting stuck into that. Some really interesting questions from you guys. Should be a really fun video. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe. We're over the 60,000 mark now. The Emirates Stadium is full, but I want to go bigger. Let's fill Wembley, let's say, and then we'll look beyond that. But David Raya, let's start with that. It's interesting, Arsenal's goalkeepers have been in the news a lot this week, or at least the goalkeeping position. Obviously, the Raya links, but alongside that, Aaron Ramsdale winning a lot of hearts and minds with his piece that he wrote yesterday, that he put together about his background, his family, his journey and his career. So there's been a lot of talk about goalkeepers. The news from Fabrizio Romano yesterday, which I understand to be correct, is that Arsenal have bid £20 million with a £3 million in add-ons, a total of £23 million for David Raya. Brentford did come into this window looking for 40 million. I almost titled this video, should Arsenal spend 40 million on a goalkeeper or 40 million on a striker? But realistically, I don't think they'll have to go to that point to get David Raya. I think with a year left on his contract, I think anything over 25, especially once we get closer to that £30 million mark, I think Brentford probably will look to do this deal rather than risk losing the player for nothing in 12 months' time, almost certainly to the same club. I don't think they'll accept the 23. I don't think that is close enough, really, to what they want. I think Arsenal also can't get to 40, realistically. I think we're at a point where financial fair play becomes a consideration. Arsenal have not yet recouped a great deal on sales, although I think the £5 million they got for Austin Trusty from Sheffield United will be very welcome. I think it was actually pretty smart from Arsenal to bring in a player on the cheap from their wider network, from Colorado Rapids, and get him experience in England, sell him for several £1 million profit. I think that's very, very welcome. Other alternatives for Arsenal could be a loan for David Raya with an obligation. That would involve Raya signing a kind of an extension with Brentford, albeit in the knowledge that he would be leaving the following summer on a permanent transfer. That is a formula that Arsenal could look at, the loan with an obligation. But I don't think that's what they're discussing at this point in time. I think they are talking about a straight-up fee. As I said, I think if it gets to 30 million, that deal will get done. Interestingly, David Raya has not been told, despite his close links with the goalkeeping coach Iñaki Caña, that he is coming to Arsenal to be the number one. He has been told that he's coming to compete and to create competition for the position. That will be fascinating. We haven't really had that since, I think, Bernd Leno was at the club. I don't think it was ever really much of a competition between Matt Turner and Aaron Ramsdale. I think it was a clear number one and a clear number two. On the subject of Matt Turner, talks with Nottingham Forest are ongoing about a permanent transfer there. So I would expect that if Raya arrives, Turner to Forest will happen. But yeah, so interesting that Raya's sort of coming to Arsenal knowing that he's got a challenge, knowing that Ramsdale is the man in possession. I imagine he expects he'll get his opportunities in the cup competitions. There's obviously the League Cup, there's the Champions League to consider. Who will get those games could be very interesting. And it will be a real scrap between Raya and Ramsdale should he arrive for that number one shirt. What Aaron wrote about in his piece tells you that his is a career where he's constantly battled adversity and constantly shown tenacity and a willingness to knuckle down when faced with difficult situations. He's a fighter, so it could be some fight. We'll come on to what that fight might do for squad harmony and things like that. So Arsenal seem very keen to improve the goalkeeping position, to add that degree of competition. It's certainly true that last season I think Aaron Ramsdale was one of a few players in the squad who, if he was injured, there was no adequate replacement. Certainly in the first half of the season, I felt the same about Thomas Partey. I think arguably you could say the same for Jesus, that we're going to come on to. But Ramsdale was one of those guys you were just constantly hoping didn't pick up an injury. The reality is, he did pick up several injuries in the course of the season and often played with them. You know, there was a long spell where he played with a broken finger after the World Cup. Maybe that has influenced Mikel Arteta's thinking, and he's thinking, well, rather than push a guy to play through injury, it'd be great if I had an alternative who I felt as confident in. Speaking of injuries, we have to talk about the other end of the pitch now, Gabriel Jesus. He's had a supposedly minor procedure done on the knee that he injured last season, just to kind of clear out the knee. It's quite normal, I'm told, after surgery that you have to go back into the knee and clean it up. A recovery time of a few weeks is plausible. I think we might be talking 4 or 5 weeks rather than 3, but it's certainly plausible. But where does it leave Arsenal on the attacking front? Eddie Nketiah played against Monaco in the Emirates Cup. I thought he did very well, got his goal. There've been some good clips doing the round of his all-round play. His link play was very good, his touch was good, he came deep quite a lot and combined, offered an outball for Ramsdale on a few occasions. So I think Eddie did quite well. What else have we got up there? We've got Flo Balogun, who's not had a kick really in pre-season since I think the Nuremberg game, not had a look in. Mikel Arteta said after the Emirates Cup the plans for Flo haven't changed. Well, from my understanding, that's because the plans are to sell him. The problem is, Inter Milan, who were the club who seemed most likely to buy him, their interest has gone away. They're going for Scamacca of West Ham, who's going to be cheaper and is kind of more of a known quantity in Serie A. Italian international, of course. So, is there a buyer? Is there a buyer at the price that Arsenal want? You know, will they be looking for at least 40 million for Flo Balogun? Ideally 50. We shall see. I'm a bit disappointed we've not seen more of him in pre-season because I think he's an interesting prospect. And with this Jesus injury, I'd be tempted to keep him around. But as I said, we're at a time where FFP becomes a consideration for Arsenal. If they want to buy another player, they probably need to sell somebody. It's likely to be someone like Balogun. And then we've got Leo Trossard, who for me is my favourite alternative to Gabriel Jesus of what we currently have on the books. I just think his combination play, his positional intelligence. I think other players look better with Leo Trossard in the team. I really, really like him. He's had a good pre-season. So he'd be who I would play if Jesus is out. Problem is, he's also one of our better wide players. He's been very good off the left in pre-season. He can play left 8 as well. I imagine he could play kind of withdrawn as a second striker. Do you want to use him through the middle, or using him through the middle, does it decrease your other attacking options? I still feel that there is room for a different profile of striker in this squad. I half wondered when Kai Havertz was signed if he might be that guy. You know, someone you can use as a bit of a target man. I know he didn't thrive in that position at Chelsea, but he does have a lot of the raw attributes, and I do think with time, with the right coaching, he could shine there as a kind of 9.5 forward. But it seems Mikel Arteta is intent on using him in midfield, and it seems like playing in midfield was a big motivating factor for Havertz to come and join Arsenal. So I would still like to see, especially if Balogun goes, another profile of striker come in, someone who can match the physicality of Jesus, but maybe with a different style, maybe someone who provides more of a target in the box, someone who's a goal scorer, someone who's comfortable running in behind. I just think that there's an improvement in quality that could be made. And I think that striker is a position that lends itself to rotation far more than goalkeeper. So I feel like if you had two strikers of comparable quality, that's not a problem. You know, especially when one is as versatile as Jesus. I just think that keeping two goalkeepers the quality of Raya and Ramsdale happy has proven many, many times to be difficult, almost impossible. And this is what Mikel Arteta has to balance. His desire for competition versus the destabilising effect that could have. I feel like in the front line, it's easier to house that kind of competition, to create it, to please everybody, to give games. I feel like with goalkeepers, that is much more difficult. who knows? I was chatting to a really interesting guy, Mike McDonald, who does brilliant tactical blogs. Do look them up. And he was saying maybe Arteta has something really radical planned with the goalkeepers. You know, maybe he thinks that one's better going short, one's better going long, one's better going long to the left, one's better going long to the right. Maybe he could even change it in game. That would be pretty revolutionary. I don't think we've ever really seen anything like that before. And I have to be honest, I don't necessarily see it like that. I think that this is about creating a fight between two players. One will win, one will lose. One will be the number one at Arsenal. One will probably go elsewhere because, let's face it, both these goalkeepers are probably too good to spend a season sitting on the bench. In the short term, if Raya arrives, I think it will be about this is your competition, this is your competition. But if one is clearly outperforming the other, maybe Arteta will be ruthless and make a call. What do you think, guys? I really think Raya's a good goalkeeper, and I'm excited to see what he could bring to Arsenal, especially with his distribution. He's a different height to Ramsdale, which, you know, gives Ramsdale a slight advantage. I think he's 3 or 4 inches taller than Raya. But yeah, I'm interested to see that battle. But I still look at this squad and think we're missing something maybe in attack. And my sense is that it'll get addressed over the next couple of windows, probably next summer. But if I had that £30 million, £40 million, whatever it is Arsenal might have to play with, I wonder if I might be investing it in the top end of the team, not the back end of the team. I just think you've got Ramsdale on a long-term contract. He's been pretty impressive by and large. He's young. Maybe the arrival of Raya will be just what he needs. But it's difficult. I think there's another end of the team that also needs attention, and I can't see Arsenal having the capacity to do both in this window. Interested to see what you think. Let me know in the comments, and we'll speak soon. Bye-bye.